Now, you're probably looking at this and thinking, oh my God, Mikey G, what has happened? This looks like a floppy drive that's mated with some spaghetti. And no, you're not far off wrong. Basically, what this is it's called an Amiga Drawbridge, and it's all developed by a guy called Rob Smith. He's used an Arduino, so this is an Arduino Mini. So this is a little controller board that you can get quite cheaply off the internet. What's attached to the other end as well is just like a USB serial port connection. So it basically allows the Arduino to talk with a PC, and then it's all connected to a floppy drive cable, and obviously then a floppy drive. So what does this do? Basically, it allows you to read Amiga floppy disks from a PC. Now, there's been products out there like CryoFlux, and this is actually a really cheap solution. The ability to copy Amiga disks to ADF, or the other way around, ADF to real Amiga floppy disks. But that's not all. Baked into the latest version of WinUAE is that we can actually use this drive in WinUAE. If you're going to be wanting a tutorial on how to make this, I recommend that you just go to Rob's website. I recommend that you have some knowledge of soldering for one, definitely. But Rob does a really good guide on which cable needs to go where. I recommend that you follow that guide. So let's move over to the PC. So on the PC, I've got to make sure that I've got a couple of things set up first. Now, you'll need the latest version of WinUAE, and as of the time of this recording, 4.9 is the first major release that has this support. And then once you've got that, you also need to go to Rob's website. So there's a couple of areas you need to go. In here is where all the instructions are for sort of like building one. So if you want to build one, you go up to the top here and then choose your Arduinos. 3 types of Arduino. I chose the middle one. You also got the option to buy a custom board that he's made as well if you don't feel comfortable in soldering and making your own. So go to the download section and you'll need to download this Drawbridge. It's 2.84 as the time of this recording, and then you extract that, and inside of there you've got a main program called Drawbridge Win, but you've also got a sketch file. Now the sketch file is used by Arduino IDE. So if you've ever used the Arduino before, and I recommend that you have a play with the Arduino first in some other projects rather than just diving into this first. What Rob gives you is a sketch file, and we'll just load that up here. And the important things are that you've got to select the right Arduino. So sort of for me it would be Arduino Pro Mini. And then there's multiple different versions. So the version that Rob says you gotta have is the 5 volts 16 megahertz version. And by accident I bought a 8 megahertz version and wondered why it wasn't working. And yeah, after chatting with Rob, realized, oh, I got the wrong board. Then you choose the port. So for example, mine's on COM3. Once you've got that all selected, you do sketch and then upload. So once that's all programmed, you can then start using Rob's program. So Drawbridge Win, open that up. And first thing I recommend doing is just selecting the COM. So COM3 is what it is for me. And then you run a diagnostics. And that will then test the device to make sure that it's all configured correctly. He does really nice, clear, concise error messages that basically says, oh, check out this pin, maybe you haven't got this pin soldered. And when I was trying this out, I found that pin 9 wasn't soldered correctly. I had a slight dry joint on pin 9, and went back to that, tried that again, resoldered that, and it worked a treat. This is the basics of what we can do with the tool. So we can read from a disk or we can write to a disk. So say for example, I've got a stunt car racer here. I I'm going to put that into the floppy drive now. And then what I'm going to do on here is I'm going to choose ADF, file name, and then we'll just save it in my documents. We'll call it Stunt Car Racer, and then save. Then if I click on start, you should see the drive start to light up. There we go, and it is now copying that disk. And now it's getting near the end. It's going to come up with alert. There we go. ADF read complete. So there we go. That's now stored. So that's a good way of backing up your disks. Now, if you've got protected games, you can also change it to SCP, which is another format that is ideal for games that are behind some kind of protection. So the cool thing with this though is the WinUAE stuff. Now if we go back to its website and go to WinUAE, there's another program that you go download, Floppy Bridge 0.9. Well, it's not a program per se, but if we go to our WinUAE folder, you had to make a plugins folder, and within that plugins folder, the file that you download will have 2 DLL files. You need to copy those across, make sure they're in the plugins folder. Then we load up WinUAE, make sure under the about that you're using 4.9, and then what we're going to do, so I'm going to take out the Stunt Car Racer disk for the moment, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Quick Start. I'm going to load up what shall we choose today? We'll go with Amiga 500 plus. Set configuration on that. Now on this screen we've got the emulated drives here, and generally what we do is we select an image and then we choose our game. But what we can do here under this drop down where it says 3.5 double density, we click the drop down and then you'll see that there's an FB real drive. Now how did we get that? Well, I went to the configure floppy bridge first, and then we'll wait for another program to load up. There we go, this is Rob's program, and basically we go to create, give your profile a name, and then you choose certain things like what COM port is it, what mode there is, so because there's different modes as well that you can choose that it emulates. And basically I've done all of that and I've created a profile called Real Drive. So this is what you're seeing here. And now I can now choose that, and basically, as you most probably heard in the background, it's ticking away. So we're going to set configuration, there we go, and then I'm going to boot up the Amiga emulator. So we should get a, there we go, bog standard kickstart screen. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert that disk, and look at that, we are loading up the game from a real floppy disk. Isn't that amazing? So we didn't need to do any conversion or anything, we're just running this disk live but in WinUAE. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see some more sort of like kind of real Amiga stuff that I've done, then I'll check out my Amiga 500 that I've got. That was a pretty good Amiga that I was given a few years back. So thank you for watching.